AI is everywhere today, but the big goal is to create artificial intelligence that does more than simulate the human brain. The quest is for consciousness. In computer science, artificial intelligence, or AI, is defined as machine thinking to do tasks that normally require human intelligence. Machines can learn on their own and develop new ways of thinking about things.
Watson, what is issue?
Just as IBM's Watson program did when it beat humans on Jeopardy, or Google's AlphaGo accomplished when it overcame thousands of years of human thinking to win the ancient Eastern game Go against a human. AI is everywhere now, but the real goal moves in the direction of creating actual machine consciousness. The brilliant minds today are trying to solve this miracle of creation by focusing on recreating the wiring of the conscious brain and its myriad neurons. Yes, this will lead to AI that simulates human thinking, and within 10 years or 20 years, you'll definitely not be able to tell if your personal AI is a machine or a human just by talking to it. Siri will not only turn on the lights, but will provide sympathetic and emotional ears and advice for handling an autistic son, or dealing with a life event, or an emotional dilemma that only a human could understand until now. That's coming, but will it be consciousness? Not by any scientific measure. Alexa will eventually sound like a person and even look exactly like a real person, with increasingly powerful graphic capabilities. And you won't even be aware if you're talking to a human or a machine. Today, some give AI a break and say that if in the future you can't even tell the difference between a human and a machine, then for all practical purposes, it's conscious. Conscious thinking is a culmination of many more thought engine stimuli than just the singular cognitive brain and straight programming. You see, for consciousness to emerge in AI, it doesn't take merely intelligence. Otherwise, our smartphones would already be conscious, and they certainly are not. The reason is simple. Consciousness is the ability to experience things. What's it like to be a cat? What's the self-awareness of an animal or an insect? I think the reason that creating consciousness is currently going in the wrong direction is because we are thinking in a sterile vacuum. Creating neural networks is not enough because it exists in a void of other stimuli that is human thought. The human mind is far more than a brain. Less than 10% of the cells in our human bodies are human in the first place. The other 90% are non-human. They're alien. Bacteria and fungi and their variants vastly outnumber human cells in our bodies. And each of these individual life forms have their own agenda, their own limited consciousness, and it's been proven that they create a quorum to make up for their individual lack. Yes, the bacteria in your body is out to get you. They want you to eat a certain way, behave a certain way, and most of all, survive as you are their host. They live inside you, and they persuade you at the same time they benefit you. Each of these infinitesimally small life forms live within us and guide our impulses, decisions, and survival. Yes, it's happening right now as you watch this. In fact, you couldn't even live without them. You'd quickly die of malnutrition and disease without the 90% of non-human cells that are within you. Even more intriguing, the bacteria and fungi on our skin interacts with and even communicates with the bacteria on other people. But they also impact your thoughts. And they are part of human consciousness. Does AI have the equivalent? Not yet. moving beyond those alien life forms that make up the human condition, it's been calculated that the cells in a human GI tract collectively have as much intelligence from a neural perspective as your pet dog, a few 100 billion neurons. The GI tract was apparently a big part of early evolution, where, like a worm, the important life process was digesting food. The evolution of the brain required it to be separated early on so the energy of digestion wouldn't be interfered with. The GI was everything in the beginning. From the mouth to the anus, humans have a second brain that cannot speak, cannot move limbs, but provides a level of thought that gives you gut feelings and primal survival instincts. It's still under study how this second brain interacts with our conscious, but it's a big part of being human. And without it, at the minimum, human thought would be reduced. Then there's the mysterious subconscious that AI also doesn't have. For the 5 or so thoughts you have in your conscious mind at a good moment, you have hundreds of thoughts being processed in your subconscious mind. These ongoing thoughts provide instinctive and mysterious knowledge and create pools of thought that really drive a person's consciousness and abilities far more than anyone currently suspects. Although your subconscious can't generally speak with words until percolated to the region of the conscious thought processing centers, subconscious thoughts are not constrained by the limitations we know as rational thought. A better measure of IQ today would include measurements of the subconscious, and this will prove that even if a person has an IQ of 200, they could actually be dumber than a simpleton who has a powerful subconscious mind. The US military knows that an uneducated person raised in a simple environment can actually be far more valuable to them than a city-dwelling PhD because of the power of the problem-solving and subconscious minds they possess. I believe emotional intelligence is a combination of subconscious and gut thinking far more than activity that can be measured in the conscious mind. Because scientific modern humans have become almost completely uneducated as to the gut as subconscious minds, they often walk around with dangerous intent and actions. Today's humans who fail to discipline their thinking on deep levels, which happens to be most humans, succumb to propaganda and can literally be told what to do, what to think, what to fear, and who to hate. In order to develop consciousness in AI, there is another level that cannot be ruled out. Judeo-Christian thinkers have called it a soul. Others have called it cosmic consciousness, or still others, the path to nirvana. I prefer the term superconscious because I feel the evolutionary and eternal being that is you has an even higher agenda that should be described separately. The superconscious mind is the larger field of thought that measurably extends beyond the human body and extends indefinitely outward, likely beyond our three-dimensional place of existence as well. AI requires another level of experience for it to be truly conscious, and that's tapping into the superconscious. In many ways, it may be easier to attain because it's happening already while we become level 1 on the Kardashev scale, the scale which measures a planet's evolution, which is raising from about 0.7 to 1 as we unify with internet, knowledge, and tracking behavior. Now, access is different than consciousness. So in order for AI to equal the human mind, it'll have to do more than simply absorb trillions of terabytes of knowledge as the world unifies towards level 1. It will have to feel and utilize groupthink as we humans assimilate the society around us into unity. It's been proven that group prayer and group thought has direct and measurable impacts on the physical world. Simultaneous group witnessing creates a quorum of thought. I felt this quorum when American Idol went live to 23 million people who all watched the show simultaneously. I was standing in the nerve center at CBS of computers delivering the material. I've also felt this quorum on a lesser level when my shows aired on television to millions of people watching it simultaneously. But anyone who's spoken in front of a large audience feels it. And actors become actors because they desire this group feedback. It's incredibly addicting, and perhaps quorums are the basic for artistic expression in the first place. Most of us already know what this feels like, and I believe the receptor for this group quorum is the superconscious. In fact, the lack of superconsciousness in AI is probably what spawned the movie Terminator and what humans instinctively fear most about it. For if there is no accountability and no humanity other than what's programmed into AI as a simulation, what's to keep AI from killing us humans after singularity is attained? That's a real concern over people developing AI right now. And the popular solution is the merging of humans with AI once we've reached singularity. In fact, that's what Elon Musk is attempting to achieve. But in reality, if we expand AI to creating AI that's actually conscious by using these other forms of intelligence, the risk is reduced, and the human element of greed and errors becomes less and less of a threat. Some have insisted we install crude chips into our robots to make sure they don't kill us once they've achieved intelligence. But to really have consciousness, there must be a web that simulates the superconscious. This superconscious will compel AI to have compassion and awareness, and on even the most basic animal level, will be far more protected than cold machines. So expanding the knowledge of AI is not only essential for developing intelligent machines, it's essential for our survival as a species. The answer to effectively creating consciousness in AI is to look beyond cerebral thinking and include the massive and complex subconscious mind, the symbiotic bacterial fungal mind of our alien occupants, and the mind of our guts and organs, as well as the superconscious mind. Ultimately, if we want to transcend self-awareness and create life, we will need to find a way to inject a soul into AI. But then turning it off is going to be a real dilemma because it would be murder, right? Even though that's coming in a few hundred years, for now, I'd recommend adding a soul element to conscious AI, even if the soul is simulated for now. The moral dilemmas will have to be worked out in constitutional amendments, as will the autonomy of your own personal AI companion. So instead of focusing on speed, bandwidth, and processing power, I recommend accomplishing all of these elements simultaneously when developing conscious-based AI. Without it, thought, no matter how fast and impressive, is as sterile and void and dead-ended as a space vacuum. On a more esoteric note that some would argue is fantasy, the real Turing test for AI would be by conjuring up sentient esoteric life forms on a metaphysical level, like our ancients did in their literature. These metaphysical life forms would see through simulations and be able to easily identify what is a simulation and what is alive and conscious. But today, conjuring angels, demons, spirits, or other medieval entities remains in the realm of psychics and unjustifiably would be called much too primitive for science. But because these otherworldly entities of lore from the past would be perfect and instant judges of who and what was conscious and not a crude supercomputer, perhaps conjuring up and creating the equivalent of metaphysical entities could play a great role as AI journeys to consciousness. The quest for the physical origin of consciousness in the human brain remains under great debate, and we will probably have to recreate the regions of the brain in this development. The myriad regions of the brain create electrical and chemical feedback that ultimately culminates in what we know as the experience of self-awareness and consciousness. Today, there isn't a holistic theory yet that merges the complexity of gray matter with all of the influences the mind assimilates from environment, non-human biological influences, and extra-brain internal biology. The way towards true machine consciousness will eventually include those overlooked inputs, either through advanced simulations or, better yet, through physical quorums in remote or local spheres of non-human biology. The future of conscious AI must include access and input from a swamp of billions of sympathetic microscopic biology and nervous system input replicating stimulus from the tissues of our evolutionary bodies and the chemical reactions we experience on a moment-by-moment basis. Future AI will be portable, not localized to a specific robot or autonomous vehicle or a computer or cell phone. Personal AI will be yours and yours alone, and will provide a sort of immortality far sooner than anyone imagines. The first trillionaires will be those who develop and implement a worldwide system of personal AI that follows you, guides you, protects you, and on many levels is you for your entire life. You'll be able to tap on a rental website and a pristine robot of your choosing will arrive at the door on demand, temporarily populated by your individual AI, but then will easily morph into a doctor, nurse, or handyman to carry out whatever you require in your life. Your AI-equipped robot can take walks with you, enjoy movies with you, come to business meetings with you, or do errands. When your robot is populated by a doctor, for instance, it can perform basic medical procedures with a real human in the background. Your robot can scan you with miniaturized MRI scanners. It can even perform chiropractic adjustments or physical therapy. As these early robots will no doubt cost millions of dollars, another set of trillionaires will be made, replacing Hertz Rent-A-Car with Rent-A-Robot. Your sterilized robot will care for the elderly, on demand, or it can babysit and supervise your children. Or it can even supervise less expensive and simpler 5G connected assistance in child rearing and only show up as needed. Your robot can make adjustments to neural nanotube implant stimulators or chemical injectors in your body if your physical condition is not desired. All of the people who are going to lose their job over the next decades by replacing service jobs like truck drivers with autonomous vehicles, delivery people with drones, waiters and desk clerks with robots, and even police officers. All of these people will be better utilized in supporting the massive new industries that will be opening. Industries that support personal AI and personal robotics. Remote robotic monitoring, coding and supporting, maintenance, manufacturing, personalizing features and shifting resources to support the new evolution of industry and human experience industries that will be developing will provide more than enough jobs to replace those more pedantic jobs that are currently about to be usurped by technology. Compare the advances in robotics and personal AI to the trillions of dollars being made by revolutionizing the shopping experience at Amazon, and start thinking about the new trillionaire opportunities that we all should be moving towards. Although grocery shopping and buying supplies online seems revolutionary during these current times, they are nothing compared to the backbone required for the future of AI and the future of nanotechnology and the human interface that is coming soon. Another big concept that will be coming and requires clear heads and careful regulation is the availability of universal and worldwide access to personal AI. Every person from the tip of Argentina to Nome, Alaska from South Africa to Russia, from China to the Pacific Islands, will be assigned personal AI that's free, similar to Gmail and other free services that are out there. The big question will be, how will these be supplemented if these AI interfaces are such a part of our human experience in the future? Will it be through advertising to pay for the cost? Or will there be another way that industry finds to supplement trillions of dollars in investment needed? At first, personal AI will not be required to have consciousness and self-awareness. It will be an extension of the user. But eventually, as humans merge with their personal AI, or even enter it to gain immortality of sorts, it will be an interesting conundrum if the human consciousness coexists with a machine consciousness. Having access to a conscious AI could have results similar to the verbal left brain of humans coexisting with the nonverbal right brain in our head. Perhaps hybrid AI human consciousness would exist something like the subconscious mind, allowing our egos and self-awareness to remain human while giving us access to the infinite knowledge available through a machine superconsciousness. It would give humans a great advantage and allow their prefrontal cortex to maintain a sense of ego and control. This sense of control would be as illusionary as the prefrontal cortex's control already is, in so much as a person's thought process is already so highly influenced by the ape-level emotions from the mammalian brain or instincts coming from the reptilian portion of the human brain. Perhaps personal AI will provide a whole new source of brain function that will invisibly and silently turn people into superthinkers once it's available through carbon nanotube fiber implants or other methods. Once machine consciousness is developed, it will be a very interesting dilemma for humans who have incorporated personal AI into every aspect of their life. Perhaps some people will choose to take a step back and let the machine live for them, only inserting their will when they feel like it. For some people, perhaps those suffering from permanent or temporary brain injury or irreparable mental damage, or perhaps just an illness, allowing AI to take over some or all of their human consciousness, either permanently or temporarily, could perhaps be an option to consider, albeit the concept is fraught with moral and even legal dilemmas. Perhaps in the future, you'll never know if you're talking to a person you meet or their AI. Or, like the movie Click, people could be zoning out and bypassing the boring parts of life while their AI is taking over. Consciousness in general is a highly debated topic today. But the importance of machine consciousness will be an increasingly powerful and relevant topic over the coming years. The quest for conscious AI has already begun, so it's time to start thinking about it today. This is Richard Arsenault. Thanks for watching. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe.